Welcome back to Strong, Confident, and Informed, the podcast where we go beyond surface level fitness advice and actually help you understand what's driving your results. I'm Danielle Lemoyne, an online fitness coach who helps women build strength, lose fat, and most importantly, stay consistent without constantly starting over. Today, I want to talk about something that I honestly think is one of the most important skills you can develop if you want long-term results. So not fat loss, not nutrition, not your workouts, consistency during stressful seasons of life. Because here's what I've learned after years of coaching women. Most people don't struggle when life is easy. Most people can follow a plan when work is manageable, your energy feels good, schedules are predictable, and your motivation is high. The real test isn't what happens during those seasons. The real test is what happens when life gets messy. And if we're being honest, life gets messy a lot more often than we'd like. Maybe work suddenly becomes overwhelming. Maybe you're navigating challenges in your relationships, or you're moving, or your finances are tighter than you would like it to be, or maybe your kids need more from you at certain times, or you're dealing with health concerns. Or maybe it's not even one big thing at all. Maybe it's just 10 little things stacking up on top of each other until you feel like you're constantly behind and barely keeping your head above water. And when that happens, that's where people tend to lose themselves. Not because they don't care or because they're lazy, and not because they suddenly stop wanting their goals, but because they don't know how to adapt. I think one of the biggest misconceptions people have about consistency is that consistency means doing the same thing all the time. 4 workouts every week, perfect nutrition every week, 10,000 steps every day, meal prep every Saturday. And if you can't do all of that, you must be failing. But that's not consistency. That's perfection. And perfection only works when life cooperates. Real consistency looks very different. Real consistency is being able to adjust without completely disconnecting. That's one of the biggest things I coach clients through. Because life isn't going to stop throwing challenges at you. There is always going to be another busy season, another stressful month, or an unexpected situation that comes up, or another reason why now isn't the perfect time. If your consistency only exists when life is calm, you're going to spend your life starting over. One thing I've noticed is that when people talk about stressful seasons, they almost always say the same thing. I just don't have enough time. And sometimes that's true. But honestly, most of the time isn't actually the biggest problem. The bigger problem is capacity. Think about it this way. Imagine stress as a bucket, okay? Every responsibility gets poured into that bucket. Work, family, finances, health concerns, relationship stress, your poor sleep, house projects, any life admin stuff, everything goes into that bucket. And eventually that bucket gets pretty full. Sometimes it overflows. Now here's the mistake people make. They keep trying to operate like the bucket is empty. They expect themselves to perform exactly the same way they did 3 months ago when life looked completely different. And then when they can't, they beat themselves up over it. But of course you're struggling. The bucket is overflowing. The expectation shouldn't be that you somehow function the same. The question becomes, how do we adjust without completely abandoning ourselves? That's the conversation. Because here's what I see happen all the time. When people become overwhelmed, they start making everything mean something about themselves. They think, what's wrong with me? Or why can't I get my shit together? Why am I so lazy lately? Or why am I losing motivation? And honestly, most of the time, they're not lazy. They're overloaded. Those are two completely different things. This is why one of the first things I do with clients during stressful seasons is help them get honest. not optimistic, not aspirational, not who they wish they were right now, who they actually are. Because sometimes a client will come to me and say, I think I should still be doing 4 workouts. Then we start talking and have a conversation. They're only sleeping 5 hours a night. Work is completely chaotic. They're emotionally exhausted from things, and they're grabbing food on the go because they don't have time for meal prep. They haven't had a second to themselves in what feels like weeks. And they're feeling frustrated because they're not executing a plan that no longer matches their reality. That's not a discipline problem. That's a mismatch problem. The plan no longer fits the season. And this is where I think a lot of coaches can tend to get it wrong. Some coaches, they push harder no matter what. Other coaches immediately tell people to back off completely. I don't think either extreme is usually the answer. The answer is figuring out what actually serves the person in front of you. Sometimes pulling back is absolutely the right move. And I think people hear pull back and immediately assume that means that you're giving up. It doesn't. Pulling back means that we're adjusting our expectations while protecting momentum. So let's say someone normally trains 4 days per week, okay? Maybe right now they have capacity for only 2. Great. Let's do 2. Let's protect the habit. Let's keep momentum alive. And let's stop trying to win the month and focus on winning today. Because sometimes maintaining momentum is more important than maximizing our progress. And I think that's something a lot of people miss. Because here's the interesting part. Not everyone needs less. And this is where coaching can get nuanced. I've had clients tell me, I think I need a break from workouts, and after talking through everything, we realized something important. The workouts weren't the problem. The workouts were actually the solution. The workouts were helping give them structure, reduce their stress, improve their mood, help them process their emotions even, and help create a routine for themselves. They weren't actually draining them. They were grounding them. And then if we removed them, things would actually get worse, not better. So sometimes the answer is less, yes, but sometimes the answer is maintaining structure. And then sometimes it can be a little bit of both. That's why there isn't a universal answer. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes I see during stressful seasons. Trying to make up for it. This happens all the time. I've done it before as well. Someone has a rough week or maybe a rough month. Life gets busy, their habits slip, and then suddenly they decide, I'm getting back on track. Which usually means we head for more cardio, we lower our calories, we try and do longer workouts, and we just set unrealistic expectations. Basically, we're trying to make up for lost time. But this almost always backfires because now you're trying to solve overwhelm with more overwhelm. When life gets stressful, most people don't struggle because they do too little. They struggle because they swing between doing too little and trying to do too much. Neither one works. What works is rebuilding. Slowly, strategically, and realistically. And this is another thing I coach constantly. You don't earn your way back. You just build your way back. Meaning, if life has been chaotic for a while, don't come back and try and do everything. Come back to the basics. Maybe that's 2 workouts instead of your regular 4. Protein at breakfast, a daily walk, just drinking more water, or getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep depending on what you need. Simple, manageable, right? It's repeatable. That's how momentum gets rebuilt. Now, I also want to talk about what success actually looks like during a stressful season. Because I think this is where people can really get confused. Most people think success means I still lost weight or I still made progress. But sometimes that's not the win. Sometimes success looks like maintaining your weight, getting your workouts in, walking consistently, or staying connected and keeping some type of structure and checking in, not disappearing. And I know that doesn't sound exciting, but it's actually incredibly important because what you're really doing is protecting the foundation that you've already built. I've seen clients go through incredibly stressful seasons where the biggest win wasn't losing 10 pounds. The biggest win was not undoing the habits that they spent 6 months building. Because here's what happens next. Eventually, life settles down. Not perfectly, but enough. And now instead of starting over from scratch, they already have a foundation. They already have momentum, and they already have habits to build from. That's powerful. Because sometimes the goal isn't progress. Sometimes the goal is preservation. And preservation matters. I think one of the biggest shifts people need to make is realizing that consistency isn't measured by how much you accomplish during perfect conditions. It's measured by how connected you stay when conditions aren't perfect. Because let's be honest, anybody can be motivated when life is easy. Anybody can crush a workout when their energy is high and they're feeling good. Anybody can meal prep when they have the extra time. But can you stay connected when life gets hard? That's the real question. Can you adjust without quitting? Can you simplify things without disappearing? Can you reduce your expectations without abandoning yourself? Because that's what long-term consistency actually looks like. I think that's the deeper lesson here. The goal during stressful seasons isn't proving how hard you can push yourself. The goal is becoming someone who doesn't abandon themselves when life gets hard. Because the women who ultimately succeed long-term, they aren't the women who never experience difficult seasons. They're the women who learn how to navigate those seasons without constantly starting over. And that's exactly what I help my clients build. Not perfect routines, not perfect motivation, and not perfect lives, but resilience, adaptability, self-awareness, and the ability to keep moving forward when life gets messy. Because those skills don't just help you lose weight. They help you build a life you can actually sustain. And that's the goal. If this episode hit home for you, I'd love to hear from you. Come message me on Instagram at DL Fitness Coaching and let me know what stood out. And if you're ready for support, you can find more details in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.